hello, everybody. Welcome to this very special edition of Geeky Clinicians Podcast. So, this is a special edition because, in general, on Geeky Clinicians, we talk about people's clinical journeys. But today, we are really focusing on helping the clinicians and giving the clinicians access to resources that will support them in their practice, in their clinical journey, their professional journey. And so, today, we have a special guest, Dora Mendez, Coach Dora. So, we're so excited to talk to her about all things HR. All right. And as always, I am Chief Geek here, Dr. Deborah Dantzler. And as always, I'll ask you to like and subscribe to this channel and share it with your friends. All right. And I'll let the other geeky clinicians introduce themselves.
Hello, my name is Mona Taki. I am a first year PMRP postmaster's resident here at 3D Psychotherapy, and I am the geeky clinical yogi.
Yes, wonderful. And okay, so today we have Coach Dora. Dora Mendez, MPA, is the founder and CEO of Coach Dora LLC and a distinguished C-suite executive with over 12 years of experience in human resources. She is a passionate advocate for diversity, equity, and inclusion, a beacon of bold authenticity using her writing and public speaking to ignite meaningful conversations through her coaching and consulting services. She strives to create a world where individuals feel empowered to lead with courage and compassion. Her leadership experience includes serving as a fractional chief human resources officer, CHRO. That's a mouthful. I can't wait to learn more about that. Vice President of HR and Chief DEI Officer and Director of HR and People and Culture roles in mission-driven nonprofit organizations. Prior to these roles, she worked in public service investigating hundreds of discrimination complaints. Coach Dora earned her Master's of Public Administration from the City University of New York, go CUNY, John Jay College of Criminal Justice. Since graduating, she has dedicated over 14 years of teaching at 14 years to teaching at John Jay as an adjunct professor. She is also a contributing author to Latinas Rising Up in HR, Volume 3, Executive Education, 2024, and co-author of Extraordinary Latinas, Volume 4, 2025. All right, awesome. Welcome, Coach Dora. We're so excited to have you.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. I really appreciate the invitation.
Sure. And so when we start these conversations here at Geeky Clinicians, we ask our guests in general to go all the way back, all the way back, all the way back. Tell us about your origin story. How did you get started and interested in the field of public administration, of HR and DEI work? And how did you get into the world of mental health HR and leading us up to where you are today?
Thank you so much for asking. So first, I want to thank you so much. I really love your show. I love what you're putting out there into the world and the support that you're giving so many women entrepreneurs like yourself. I also just want to share, I don't know, Dr. Dantzler, we went to college together.
That's
So,
right.
so you have been part of my journey as someone I've known for years through that wonderful college experience. So, Mona, thank you so much as well. I just really appreciate the audience here and the community you're building with geeky clinicians. You're not geeks. You are just like fabulous women, really trailblazing the way. But I just want to say I started my I always knew I wanted to help people and be of service. My parents were very civic minded. My father, may he rest in peace, was in the military and served that way. And my mother is a trailblazing women's rights activist. So I grew up in a household where everyone was very civic minded. So I knew that I wanted to be to give. I always knew I wanted to work in the community. So after my college experience, I went into law enforcement. A lot of people, I went into law enforcement. I spent about 10 years investigating employment discriminations complaints. I got burnt out. I got burnt out is a lot. I especially because I was a bilingual investigator, so I would work with a lot of women who were new Americans who were being exploited. So it was a lot. It was a lot. So I was getting burnt out. So I went back and I got my master's degree in public administration, and that's where I learned during the master's program what I really would that I really liked human resources. It had all the things that I had been trained to do. Your HR department is the de facto legal department, and I had all that employment law knowledge. The HR department is who you come to when you have worries, when you have concerns, when you have complaints. I was very good at taking the laws and putting them into policy and regulation. I love I like solving problems. And so HR became what I really, really kind of fell into. And I immediately, after graduating, my first role was as a director of workforce planning and development for a nonprofit organization that worked with homeless and unhoused families. And I worked on a project with women, with survivors of domestic violence, which was something I really enjoyed doing, and training women on their rights. And so while I was in an HR role, I was still working with people making a difference directly into the community. And so I in the HR field, I worked with many clinicians. I worked with social workers, licensed social workers. I worked in behavioral health and housing. My last role was at a philanthropic organization that did health access. So I worked with medical doctors, psychiatric nurses, prescribers. I worked with all levels of people in the healthcare field, working to support multiply distressed families and people. And then I also serve on the board of an organization called Synergia Inc. It's a small organization that helps children and their families with intellectual disabilities, autism, and things of that nature. And so I just always gravitated to help human services, people services, and I went from direct service, investigating them, to indirect service, supporting the organization and the people that work for them. And then I pivoted again in my career after many years. I'm not ashamed to say it, but I turned 50 and made a big change in my life and decided to start my own business as Coach Dora. And I continue to do that. I continue to help support entrepreneurs, clinicians like yourself. One of my first clients as an independent HR consultant was a men's health clinic. I came in, there were excellent clinicians, but running their business and hiring staff was something they did not know how to do. So they brought me in for a short time, and I helped set up their whole mechanism, their policies, their procedures, their handbook, how to hire, their onboarding. I helped set everything up so that they can then hire their first employees. And so that's how I support clinicians. I come in, you guys do the wonderful work with your clients, but not, you're not, you were trained to help your clients and your consumers and your patients, but you may not have necessarily been trained on how to run, the the people part in the people operations and the compliance and
Absolutely.
the laws and the taxes and the payroll. And so that's where I come in, and that's how I support clinicians. And in a way, it helps me because I'm taking that off your plate. You can focus on doing good and the healing. And in a way, I kind of feel like I'm helping to heal people too, because I'm,
Yes,
so
you're part of the team. Yes, you're part of the team. And I think this is one of the reasons I felt like it was really important to bring this space this week in terms of like our special geeky clinician adjacent service providers, because you're right. Mona, you just finished your master's program. Was there a course on how to run your business? Nope.
No.
Nope. Because it doesn't exist in our clinical mental health training. And so this shift, when people are looking to start a practice, grow a business, maybe even grow into a group practice and things like that, having that support of an HR, a fractional HR person that can serve to help them keep them in order. Because we don't know what we don't know, right? And when I started this business, there were things that I had jacked up in the beginning, but needed outside coaching and to kind of get those things corrected. The important thing about HR, though, and it's, because we can talk about like not having certain systems and not knowing certain things about business, but HR is one of those things you can't mess with. You cannot mess around with HR because it's the law, right? And there's certain aspects of things that are required in running a business in the field, in the area of HR, that we just don't know. And if not, we'll still, ignorance is not an excuse for violating the law. And so it's really good to have people like Coach Dora who have this knowledge to help. But I kind of want to shape us in two ways today, if that's okay with you. I want to talk about, from your perspective as an HR professional, what would you recommend? How would you support? How would you guide newer clinicians coming up into the field as they're looking at things and taking positions and offerings and just various aspects of things from agency work and private practice and things like that? Because you did mention that you did a lot of like investigation and making sure that people are treated fair and equitable. But then I also want to talk a little bit about for those people who are now maybe starting their practices or growing their practices, and what does that look like to even start hiring? What are some of these systemic things that we need to have in place, and where are the major red flag potholes that if you don't do that I-9, you're now at risk of going to jail, right? Like those sorts of things that are important that people want and need to know. So okay, I know I feel like that was a lot.
It was, but I get it, because that's why people come to me. So I'm gonna just start with my top three things for sort of startups. And for clinicians, the number one thing is insurance. I don't want to be a downer, but make sure that you have your licenses up to date and your insurance. Insurance is the first thing that I would do to protect you, your corporate, your liability insurance, whatever partnership you have. That would be number one. Have your insurance in place. And number two, before you begin your first hire, talk to your accountant. Make sure you have the cash flow to make payroll. And if you don't, one of the benefits of clinical work is that you can supervise interns and you can supervise other people's hours. So you can get labor, not free, but you can get labor to start working with, technically free, because you would be working with institution, with a college, university, some kind of practice to sponsor that, you know, intern, or the clinician that needs clinical hours, and they're either getting paid by the university or the fellowship or the internship, or the what you would pay them more than the minimum wage, of course, would not be too overwhelming for your practice, because you wouldn't have to pay them benefits. Not that I'm saying don't give people benefits, but that is one of the things about that's number two, is setting up that sort of like intern or sponsoring or that relationship with an institution so that you can get some labor in, because you have your insurance intact and you can supervise a younger clinician to do their hours in your facility, and then you can train them to do it the way you want, and they don't bring the baggage from, you know, practicing somewhere else. They can learn to do the things that you want to do them, because I know some people say, oh, an intern, you have to tell them, you have to spend some. I love interns and fellows because they don't come with the baggage, and you get to show them how you like things to do, and they get to do things the way you like to do them, and it's better to train someone that way. That's the one and the two: insurance, working with institutions to mentor, train, and have the labor of younger practitioners. And the third one is to have your policies in place. Always start with that handbook, and usually, the best way to do that, that's the most affordable way to do it, is to invest in some kind of system to do that for you, automate it some way, whether it's a lot of these names are familiar to you because they're all over the news on TV. I'm not trying to advertise any particular system, but systems that are made for small businesses and practices like Gusto, JustWorks, PEO, ADP, Paycom, you know, all of these names. Invest in some kind of system that has sort of like a customizable platform that you can use templates and tools. And then you would hire someone like me to help you set those up so that when I'm gone and away, you have your toolkit set up where you could just click a button and it'll tell you this is what this policy means. You'll click a button and it'll tell you, okay, I have to onboard this person this way. And you just have someone's set it up for you in that way, and walk you through it and train you how to use it. And then you can keep doing your business. So those are the top two things: insurance, working with, you know, interns, fellows, you know, practitioners, some kind of partnership with an institution to place folks to work with you, and then have some kind of automated system. So
Excellent.
those are the top three things. So I know you asked a lot, but I try to answer it very simply and straightforward. Those That would be my priority
No,
for
no.
any someone starting a practice.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense for somebody starting out, like just wanting to start their own private practice, making sure they already have the systems in place to scale when they're ready. A lot of times, again, because we don't have business 101, how to run a private practice in our degreed programs, a lot of times, especially this happened to a lot of people during COVID, right? A lot of people, anybody who was fully licensed hung out a shingle and said, I own a business now. I am going into private practice. And because the world was the way that the world was, and the world is the way that it is now, there was a lot of demand. So people grew very fast without having the actual foundation of systems, and therefore it made it really difficult to scale because they didn't have anything to scaffold onto. It was just kind of like they were building the plane while it was flying. And
Mm.
so and the world can move very fast, and so it feels really kind of crazy and chaotic sometimes. But to know that you have somebody, you have resources, that you have like a Coach Dora that can help you make sure that you're in compliance and in conformance. Because when so HR covers touches a lot of things, right? You touch the IRS,
We
right?
touch So the whole talent life cycle. So everything from your state, your city, state, federal compliance with all employment and labor laws. Yes, with payroll, all the taxes that need to be paid, and even with the recruitment. Now there are states. I know you guys are you would. I'm in New York.
Hmm.
I know you all in Georgia,
Hmm.
and there are state compliance rules with sharing salary information, what you can ask on an application. Like there are certain things that you cannot ask on an application of candidates. And I don't want to be like a Debbie Downer, but it's all to manage risk and
Yes.
liability for both people, not just the employer, right? But also the employee, and also and the staff. So
Mhm.
having someone just make sure that you're compliant, and and it's not that much different than all the clinical compliance things that you need to do. It's easy to translate. Like you have HIPAA, right? You have to be careful how you manage your clients' records. It's the same with employee records. You have to be careful how you manage those records. So there are a lot of skills that apply that you can apply as a clinician to managing HR with the same approach. Rules, regulations, compliance. It's not so foreign to
Mhm.
clinicians because you have to do the same to maintain your licenses, to maintain confidentiality. It's the same on the people, on the human resources side. You have to just, make sure that you do the management. And it's not that overwhelming if you get the support to help you set up, because a lot of people sometimes get overwhelmed, but don't let it overwhelm you. It's worth the investment to have someone come in and help you, a vendor come in and help you set those things up.
Yes. I have some more questions, but I want to leave room for Mona. Mona, do you have any questions for Coach Dora?
Yes, I know we've been talking about just the different things that you do. And I'm curious, Dr. D, you brought up the state of the world. And I'm just curious, with everything that you have done and that you're currently doing, like what are your biggest challenges that you've come across or maybe currently going through?
So that's a great question. A lot of people have been asking me that and commenting because of the chaos in the world and because I am a champion of inclusive leadership. And there seems to be like this war against inclusion. And I have tried my best to push away the rhetoric and the chaos and remind people that even before this administration and uh, this time of uncertainty, there was a backlash against DEI already before affirmative action had been struck down. There were already challenges in the employment and labor space before this chaotic time, and just to remember to go back to basics, not to over comply, not to overreact. You want to prepare for the worst, right? But hope for the best. But remember, we've been through this before. So, respect and resilience are the values of inclusive leadership.
Mm.
And that has always been the value. Respect and resilience have always been those values. And you just have to remember to try to tune out all that chaos and focus on how you can ride this time of uncertainty. A lot of people have said things like that to me. A lot of people even has shared with me like they were worried about my business or me. And it turns out you need inclusion now more than ever. And there are many like-minded people trying to figure out how to pivot. How do I pivot? How do I how do I stay true to my values even though I cannot use certain words? Or I cannot, consort with certain people because it may damage my business or my quite frankly my federal contract or my federal funds. And I'm concerned about that, but I want to stay true to my values. And it turns out that there are many people who are trying to figure out how to navigate the space. And language is language, but the values, the goals, the gains, the respect, the resilience, that should not change. And there are ways to navigate it. And something I went to a conference just a couple of weeks ago, Mona, where there was this really great attorney talking about benefits and all of the laws that have to do with benefits and wellness, and how There was a recent law that said mental health needs to have parity with physical health.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I was so thrilled. Mental health and physical health, it should all just be health, right? But we're not there yet as a society. But the law has been put out there. Mental health needs to have parity with physical health. And all health insurance companies need to know this. That's unfortunately under threat right now. There's pending litigation on how healthcare benefits will be managed now because of that. But mental health and physical, there needs to be parity. So I do my best, Mona, to stay up to date on what's happening in the actual world, not rhetoric, not X Twitters, what's actually happening in the law, and keeping an eye on it, and not overcorrecting before anything's actually happening. And so at this conference, it was great to hear from this attorney who says, executive orders are not law. They definitely influence how the federal government run, and they influence how everyone else run. Let's face it. When the federal government does something, you listen, but they are not law. And so there are certain things that have to happen before you actually change your policies, your rules, your regulations. And this attorney was great and shared like all of the law, all of the cases that they were following that could influence how we, our offices, our work, and our practice, and all of the rulings that may or may not happen. So I have, what I've been doing, Mona, is staying on top of what's actually happening and trying to tune out the noise and just stay on top of the actual things that are happening. And so that has been challenging because there's so much noise and so much uncertainty. And so just trying to stay clear eyed and focus and remember that there have been chaotic times before. Remember COVID. Nobody, I mean, those were crazy times for all of us. And that was just
Yeah.
5 years ago. It feels
Wow,
like
can you believe
20.
it's only 5
But
years
that was just
ago?
5 years ago where
I
we were
know.
all like, we have to all pivot how we work. Like, how do you practice now on Zoom?
Exactly.
Can you do
Yep.
therapy on Zoom? I mean, so we have survived uncertain, rocky times before, and just remember to stay clear-eyed and focused. It's not so easy though, because it's emotional. I mean, people have feelings, people share their trauma, vicarious trauma. I'm not an expert like you
Mhm.
guys, but HR, we're often the sounding board, the complaint department, the ombudsman, the the therapist sometimes too,
Yes,
because
it
people share stuff with us, so I hope
absolutely.
that answered your question, Mona. I hope that
Yeah.
answered your question.
Yes, thank you.
I love that how you said staying values focused and clear-eyed, because respect and resilience have always been the values, and they are the values, and they will always be the values. So continuing to kind of keep keep the main thing, right? Like keep those values focused no matter what kind of crazy distractions are trying to get us in the world and get us off track, but really just kind to remembering to like the to stay focused. And I love how in HR a lot of times they shift from this language between human resources to like people management, people care, people and that's what we have to remember. The HR department, like you said, you're very parallel to us in clinical ways, because you are like the hub of safety or the hub of care for the employees of a practice or an agency or things like that, and we're there, the front line, trying to pour into our clients. But what do I say, Mona? What do I always say? We don't use a screwdriver or a hammer or a drill. We are our instrument.
Yeah.
We are the instrument in the space with the client. And if we are not well, if we are not doing our personal work, then we are likely to cause damage. And to know that we can go to HR to get like the supports around employee assistance, or to get somebody to help advocate with perhaps other supports. What have been some of the best things that over the course of your career your wonderful and illustrious career, what have been some of the hugest wins that you've had with working with helping the employees, the clinicians, the geeky clinicians, helping them do their best work for the people they serve?
Wellness and well-being. So what have been some of the wins for me? Some of them happened were all kind of spurred by the law, and I've been proud sometimes to be ahead of the law. So things that support wellness in the office, like having a multi-purpose room that can serve as the lactation space, that can serve as the prayer space, that can serve as the I need 5 minutes to take a nap to reboot space. um Having had a multi-purpose room before it became law, there are many, it's 36 states now require offices to have a space for lactation, and a space for prayer, and a space for mental health, a break. And so that was the law, and I'm very proud that to have spearheaded having spaces like that before it became legally required. So for me, that's a big win, to have a space where people could go during the day, during the work, to sort of like to take that necessary break for physical and mental sort of refresh, to then get back and bring their best self to the work. Um, and I must say, I have been surprised at some pushback that I've gotten sometimes. People were like, they're here to work. I'm not paying them to take a break. I was like, no, but they can't do their best work if they don't get that 5 minutes to do this. If they can't go, if they're lactating, they can't concentrate, um, all those things. If they can't they have to leave the building to pray. That takes so much time, but if you provide the space, they can do it. And then they come back, they feel good, they're unburdened from the little respite, and then they can bring their best self. So that for me, providing spaces, safe spaces for wellness and well-being, is a proud moment that I have, and I've always spearheaded anywhere I've gone. And then creating spaces for people to feel for safety, where people can bring their authentic selves to work. So doing all kinds of programming around lunch and learns, to not only just educate people on best practices in their roles, whatever their job is, but also personally, like how to be an effective communicator, how to provide effective feedback, how to collaborate, what tools, technical tools, no matter what job you have in the organization or what your role is, whether it's entry level or executive, these are all skills that we need to develop and use to be a good team player. And quite frankly, leadership is about collaboration.
Mm-hmm.
Good leaders understand that you don't go it alone. And so one of the things that has been a second proud moment, aside like championing wellness and well-being, is creating spaces where people can learn how to collaborate, and bringing in trainings and skills, lunch and learns, and programming where people have spaces where they can collaborate. And the last thing I will say that I'm really proud of doing is when partnering with staff is, I will say the worst part of my job, I'm going to be honest, and I hope this isn't too controversial, but I really hate working with insurance companies. Um, but I have learned to lean on our vendors. There's, a broker or vendor, people you may have worked with to make sure that your bills get paid from your client's insurance. And so I have learned to lean on the vendors to help negotiate with the benefits, making sure the benefits make sense. So when I worked for a behavioral health organization, that benefit package had more coverage for mental health, like 10 calls for mental health as opposed to another organization that only had 3 calls.
Mhm.
So I worked at an organization that was 70% women, so we made sure the benefit package had IVF and things that were more supportive of reproductive health. So as an so I would say while that's the worst part of my job dealing with the insurance company, it's the best part because that equips the staff to have the things that they need to, if they're healthy and they're safe, they can bring their, and they know that the organization is investing in their wellness and their health and their safety, then they can bring their best self to work, and
Absolutely.
that makes the organization more productive, that makes the clients better served. And so those are the 3 areas that I'm really proud to work with leadership on doing, and I've been successful at making sure people have what they need to bring their best selves to work.
Okay, wonderful. So over the years, I've gotten kind of mixed messages around what is okay and what is not okay for leadership, supervisors, um, decision makers in organizations. If they see an employee perhaps struggling with certain things like time management, completing tasks, maybe they are showing some symptoms of depression and things like that. When is it okay for somebody in an organization to have a conversation with an employee about their mental health?
So
Or is that a protected status and they can't mention it because this is the mixed messaging?
so
Like we're promoting, well, okay, I'm going to stop talking.
Dr. Dancer, I want to share what you need to do is already create spaces for these conversations.
Mm,
So, so performance management. So you
mm,
have to have a system for one-on-one meetings with your employee, team meetings, staff meetings, mid-year performance review, end of the year performance review. So there are already touch points built in throughout the year where you have safe spaces to have discussions about performance, not about a person's personal behavior or conduct, but about their performance. And when you have those conversations, if they're good conversations and they're focused on the work and there's a rapport built and there's trust built, people will share. People will share. So
mm.
you have built-in touch points in the way you work where people have spaces where they can share. I would never recommend asking someone if they have a mental health issue, but asking someone how they're doing today, that's perfectly fine. And if you created trust and rapport, when you ask the person how they're doing today, they may share with you what the issue is.
Yes. And so the asking them how they're doing, obviously rapport building, but in terms of legal guidelines and what's okay and
I
what's
would
not
not
okay,
I would
in
not
terms of like
say,
asking the person, like,
are
do
you
you have,
depressed?
well,
I would
not
not.
like that, but like, do you have a therapist, right? Like, are you working with a therapist, right?
Well,
And
that
is that
question,
okay or is that not
I
okay?
feel well because of the nature of your work. I
Exactly. And
I don't
that's the,
think the
the thing,
nature because
right?
of the nature of your work, I think if you're sharing, so for example, working in behavioral health, we made it a point to make sure that our benefit package had a therapeutic component and a telehealth component when it was new. This was back in the day. This is before 2020 when telehealth was sort of like a new thing.
Mhm.
And we were able to have discussions about the need for it because of the nature of the work. But it wasn't directed towards one person. No one felt singled out. So
Yeah.
for me, it's always good to be able to have open and transparent discussions about mental health, not single out anyone. It's when you start singling out people that there can be trouble. But because of the nature of your work and the you want to put you have to have frank conversations about mental health with your clients. You should be able to have it with your staff, but not singling out anyone in particular unless that person initiates the conversation. So it's always tricky, but the way to protect yourself from any risk and to support your client is to be able to have transparent and open conversations about mental health in general, about the benefits that support your mental health in general, and to have policies that are transparent and open generally to everyone, to all. And that's why a lot of organizations, not just clinicians, would put like policies on their website, like put it transparent to the world, like our HIPAA. A lot of clinicians, medical centers, healthcare centers, they put their HIPAA policy and their whistleblower policy, or they put it out into the public so that there are open, transparent conversations and no one feels singled out. They already know that this is the position of the clinic, big or small. This is the position. We provide this support. We help people with behavioral mental health issues, and we want our employees to be healthy in their mental and behavioral health as well.
So something like if a practice or a company has something like a Be Well initiative, right?
Oh, those are great.
Then if they have that, then it's more comfortable to have the conversation. Like again, where I used to work, my old supervisor, like every meeting he would say, do your personal work, do your personal work, do your personal work, right? And so he wouldn't say go to therapy, but we knew what go to do your personal work
Yes,
meant.
but he said it to everyone.
And he said, yes, he said it
But
to
he said it
everyone.
to everyone. And so
Yes.
that is the difference between when people start feeling singled out,
Mhm.
that is where trouble can happen. But if there's already, like, you start every meeting, I worked at an organization that started every meeting with a mindfulness moment. And some people just use it to sleep. That's fine. Some people, used it to, do other work while people were, not everyone used it, but every meeting started with a mindfulness moment to create sort of like that standard of practice. And it didn't single anyone out. And so I think that whole do your work. I think you can be a champion for mental health and give people safe space for it without singling anyone out. It's when you people start feeling singled out or feel like they're being treated differently, that's where you start getting into trouble.
Yeah, and I think it's so important to have that general culture in place from the beginning because burnout in the field of clinical mental health is extremely high. We do heavy emotion-laden work. And if we're not doing our personal work, then we run the risk of burning out. And so before it even becomes an HR issue, before it even becomes a performance issue, it is kind of setting that tone within practices. Again, it goes back to what you said at the beginning, just like we talked about the legal conformance and legal compliance. It is having the system set up in place from the very beginning, and that will set the culture as well. Yeah. Um, One of the things that's I feel like maybe it's unique to uh, therapy. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's something that's a challenge across other industries as well. It's There's a lot of debate out in the therapy streets around when you're making that shift to grow. Do you the controversy is to 1099 or to W-2?
That's I don't think that's a conversation you need to have with your accountant. You have to do what makes sense for your business, and you can't make the decision based on what's what's better for individuals. You have to make the decision for what's best for your business and what's going to keep the cash flow going and what's best for your clients. So I have no comment on that
Love
because
that
it
answer.
all that is an individual decision that you really should be talking to your CFO, your controller, your payroll, your whoever does the money for you, and that is a decision that you have to make. Not one is not better than the other. They have different financial pros and cons, and that is something that each individual practice has to decide for what makes sense for themselves. And and also, you got to factor in it's just like the decisions you make, what insurance you take, or whether you're not going to take insurance. I mean, I'm in New York and there are a lot of therapists that don't take insurance at all
Mhm.
because they don't want to deal with the insurance company. They don't want to deal with having to justify the decisions that they make to a corporate entity, but then they can't serve as many people. So it's these are business decisions that people have to make individually. Will I take insurance? Will I not take insurance? Will I 1099? Will I W2? That is something that you have to sort of sit down
Okay.
and how you want to run your business. So
Okay.
I'm neutral.
Okay. But I think that's really, I love that answer because I think it gives clarity here as well around what it means to have a fractional HR person, what it means to work with you, Coach Dora, right? That you are going to come in, you're going to stand next to the person, you're going to help them, you're going to help them build their systems, you're going to teach them, you're going to support them, but you're not doing it for them, right? You're not going to kind of just like, here, you can't, somebody's not going to say, oh, here, do this whole part of my business for me. I don't want to do it, right? And so the idea that
Some
you're
people do.
some people
Some
do.
people do. Some people do,
Yes,
and there's limits there too because I'm gonna go away and the compliance isn't. So you need to. It's a partnership.
exactly. So so people get a clear idea when they work with you. This is what's happening. I'm going to come in. I can hold your hand while we do this, but we're going to get it done, and then you'll be able to be in a position to run your business and have all your HR needs met and your systems in place. So, who is your ideal client? And then I'm going to ask Mona if she has some more questions before we get to the final closing question.
My ideal clients are startup businesses, entrepreneurs, and uh, champion people who are looking to maintain an inclusive culture, big or small, with value based. I spent my whole career in the public sector and in nonprofit sector. So the ideal client for me, whether it's a private company, a public company, is are people who are mission driven, and want to maintain that inclusive culture. Those are the ideal clients for me. Mission driven folks, big, small, who need this, who need the support in their people and culture in that people and culture area. And so that's my ideal client.
Awesome. And you are able to service people nationwide. Yes.
Yeah, this is the great thing about technology. I have I'm currently fractional CHRO for clients in Chicago, which is great right now. So I start my day at 8 a.m. They don't know it. By the time I meet with them at 10, which is their 9 a.m., I'm already all set and prepped to like have that meeting with them. So I serve folks everywhere. And then my first client, my clinical a men's health clinic, they were in Oregon, in Albany, Oregon. And so that was a little tricky because the 3 hour time in the fall and spring, that was a little tricky with the timing. But no, it worked really well. And they were in Oregon. So I can serve anywhere because I don't need to physically be there. Although I'm happy to physically be with the folks, yeah, I don't need to physically be there, and I can help. And I helped hire like an office manager that can help maintain some of these systems, because sometimes you don't need a a C-suite level person to help you keep the systems going if you're a small practice, but you might need an office manager type of person, um, to do that. And I can also work with that person to sort of help them maintain what's set up.
Okay, awesome. Excellent. So, Mona, do you have any other questions before I ask the final summation question?
Yeah, I have one. I guess I'm just curious to know, how do you get your clients? Is it like word of mouth? Is there like you do marketing, or is it a directory that you're a part of that people know who you are and what you do?
Mona, I do all of it, girl. So referrals are welcome. And then I have a public speaking part of my business, which is the funnel. So I will speak on panels, keynotes, and people hear me speak. And there's always one or two people in the crowd who are like, I think I need that help. And so my lead funnel is the public speaking part of my business, and then referrals, and then working with people like Deborah, who I went to school with, Dr. Hansler. I want to give her the respect that she's owed, that she's earned. And I love that reintroduce yourself video, by the way. And so and I will maintain relationships with people I admire, like Dr. Dansler, who will help showcase and market my business and make referrals. So right now I'm very heavily into referrals and the speaking part. I am a member of United Latinas and Latinas Rising Up in HR, the two publications which I'm contributing author. Those are communities that is a membership community of other HR professionals and Latinas. As a proud Afro Latina, that's sort of the community that has been most supportive to me in my identity. And so those have been sort of the ways I have gotten clients. And, you know, if you can help me crack the code on how to get that steadier stream, I'm happy. But right now, I'm still a young business. And I have a podcast too, Mona, like you guys. So I can't wait to have you guys on my show.
Yes, we'd love that.
You have an opening to when I gear up for the next season. I'd love to have you ladies on my show, talking about leadership. And so those are all kind of the ways that I'm working to connect with people, build relationships,
Mhm.
and help people. Because even though it is a small business, my business is to serve and to continue serving and to continue help people.
Yes, which is wonderful. And again, just to highlight the unique aspect that you bring to the space is a lot of times when you're out there and looking for coaches and trying to help people, like trying to find people to help you navigate your business and things like that, if there is nothing else like mental health, we have so many uh, safeguards and regulations, and sometimes even limitations that just are unique to our field, right? Because our main goal is protect the client, right? So there are layers to this thing. So not every fractional human resource officer has experience that Coach Dora has to know exactly what the inner workings around how hiring and HIPAA and conformance and licensure and all of these things work specifically for our field. So to niche down to be able to serve this population of geeky clinicians, we are so grateful. We're so grateful for your time. We're so grateful for you joining us. And I do want to ask our summation question, the question we ask all of our clients, all of our guests, sorry, at the end, is what are your best hopes what are your best hopes for your profession in HR, for HR as it relates to mental health? What are your best hopes for the future?
Two things. One is I feel like HR has a PR problem.
Mhm.
People are like, they fire you, the HR fired me. We have a PR problem often, and I would love for people to start to see the profession in general as partners, um, as people and culture partners, rather than like disciplinarians or firing. And remember, we went from personnel to HR to human capital to now people and culture, and
Mm,
that those names keep changing because of that sort of PR, that PR problem. So I would love, my hopes and dreams are for people to start looking to HR professionals as partners, partners in leadership, partners in driving culture. um, my hopes for me as a practitioner, as a coach, as a consultant is, I have that vision that, courageous and compassionate leadership. And I think I can change the world one business at a time, because the way you drive change in our culture, really in the workplace, you spend more time at work than you do sometimes with your own families. And so driving culture change for a more courageous and compassionate world that's more tolerant and kind. This is my way of doing it. And so those are my big hopes and dreams. And also to be, as rich as Oprah Winfrey one day.
so I love that. I love that. So thank you so much, Coach Dora. It's so good to have you, and this has been wonderful. So many wonderful nuggets. All right, for those of please, if you're watching, if you have not already, subscribe, like, share. Pass this wonderful information around, share it with other clinicians, and Coach Dora's contact information is going to be in the show notes. So if anybody is thinking about setting up their systems for HR, or want to even evaluate whether their systems are in good position, this is a great way to uh, connect with her. Her information will be in the show notes, and we will see you guys next time.